Greetings, ladies and gents, and welcome to this latest edition of Retifos, where I take old stories I've narrated and update them to modern audio standards. This particular story is called Buck Thunderpunch, Inferno of Justice. The ship fell out of hyperspace with a shuddering crash, the roar of the engines replaced with the strident tones from a dozen different alarms. Lalep began racing between consoles, shutting down on essential systems and diverting their power to life support. His two crewmates on the bridge were focused on their own stations. Reb was trying desperately to keep the reactor stable, while Sasset attempted the same with the misbehaving hyperspace window generator. Either could rip the ship apart upon failure, so Lalep did his best not to distract them as they worked. Finally, after minutes that felt like hours, the ship was safely under control and dead in the water. Their reactor stack was dark and would remain so until it cooled enough to effect repairs. "We'll be here a while," Reb sighed. "That exit tore half of our radiators. If the reactor was up, we'd have to turn it off regardless. We'll have to proceed directly to the nearest port and hope that it's short enough hop that we don't overheat." "Where's the nearest port anyway?" Sasset asked. Lalep swung around to the flickering navigation console, punching in a request. "It's getting a fix. Hold on," he muttered. Looks like we're, He broke off and stared numbly at the readout, his skin flushing pale blue with fear. "Captain, what?" Sasset asked, concern in his voice. "Where are we?" "Human space," Lalep croaked. "We're several light years within their borders." The other two looked at him with puzzled expressions. The humans are our allies?" Reb objected. "Isn't that a good thing?" "Just because they'll help us doesn't mean that we want their help," Lalep retorted. "Have either of you ever met a human?" "Well," both shook their heads. "I don't understand why you're so concerned," Reb said. "I've only ever heard good things about humans. They protect planets from invaders, help the sick and injured, fix societal problems. From everything I've read, they're a race of heroes." "That's precisely the issue," Lalep moaned. "They are. Every damn one of them, ever since the Larathi, idiots that they are, decided to give them their prototyping technology." "We use Lalathi prototyping," Sasset pointed out. "Everyone does. It's convenient. What does that have to do with anything?" "It's mentally controlled construction," Lalep hissed. "And they handed it to a perpetually hallucinating fantasy-prone egoists, undisciplined apes that see self-focused patterns in every meaningless blip of data. They didn't have the control to handle that kind of power safety. It took very little time before one of them managed to convince the prototyping device to modify itself. And from there," he shuddered, "we have to leave as soon as we can." "But Captain, we can't go anywhere until the reactor cools," Reb pointed out. "We literally have no choice. He stopped talking as a horrid screech ran through the ship. The crew exchanged a look and immediately turned back to the status displays. Flashing alarm lights had appeared on the console monitoring cargo bay containment, and in moments they were staring at a video feed of the aft bay fall. The cargo bay had disappeared, replaced by a swarm of brutish creatures. They were pounding at the hold's door with worrying strength. Foam dripped from their fanged mouths as they battered the hatch, denting the metal. "What in the Primarch's night are those things?" Reb asked in horror. How did they get on the ship?" "It doesn't matter," Lalep said quietly. "It's already started. We're going to be fine. Just try not engage the narrative any more than you have to." "What?" Sasset asked. "Captain, I don't—" He was interrupted by a deafening crackle of static from overhead that resolved into a deep, gravelly voice loud enough to shake dust from the structural beams of the bridge. "Come in, alien vessel," the voice boomed. "This is Captain Buck Thunderpunch of the Steel Raptor. Looks like you've got yourself a little rabbit space gorilla problem." As the crew was still in a bemused contemplation of that assertion, a loud crash echoed from aft. The video feed showed dozens of the apparently rabid creatures pouring through the hatch from the cargo bay into the ship itself. "Don't answer," Lalep hissed. "Don't engage with him at all. Those things are here for him, not us." The other two looked at him incredulously. "Respectfully, Captain, they're not running towards him," Reb said. It's accept his help or die. Lelep shrugged and shook his head. Don't say I didn't warn you, he sighed. Captain Thunderpunch, Reb responded, keying the communicator. We're dead in space and have some sort of large aggressive life forms on our ship. Any assistance that you can render would be appreciated. 10-4, comrade, came the deafening response. Hang tight. Old Buck Thunderpunch will handle this. Old Buck Thunderpunch and name ain't. There was a crash from the bridge's door as it was battered aside with terrifying strength. One of the creatures from the cargo bay stood there, slavering jaws wide as it screamed ferociously at the three petrified crewmen. They charged across the decking and was upon them in an instant, its mammoth arms reaching for Reb, and then it was hurled across the bridge as an equally gigantic figure kicked through the front view screen in a shower of crystal fragments, one with the combat boot connecting firmly with the creature's chest. Buck Thunderpunch! Buck Thunderpunch finished, lips quirked in a rakish grin around a smouldering stub of his cigar. The sound of an electric guitar inexplicably filled the bridge with energetic power chords. Lelep averted his eyes, but Sisette and Reb were dumbstruck as they looked at their savior. He was huge, layered with slabs of muscle that flexed hypnotically under his tanned, dirt-smeared skin. His dirty upper garment left his arms and shoulders exposed, and sweat glistened on his biceps as he picked up a bit of twisted metal piping from the deck. Two lenses of darkened glass obscured his eyes as he turned towards the downed invader. The creature looked up at him and let loose another rage-filled scream that was cut harshly short when Buck Thunderpunch hurled the pipe like a javelin into its open mouth, impaling the head and pinning the creature's corpse to the wall. Pipe down! Buck Thunderpunch said, deadpan. Sisette's eyes darted between the dead creature and the shattered view screen, its jagged edges opening directly to the vacuum of space. How is that? How are we not dead? He rasped. The air doesn't matter, Lelep said morosely from his seat on the floor. Just, let it happen. More screams came from the back of the bridge as the creatures hurled themselves through the door at Buck Thunderpunch, who had produced a massive combat knife, seemingly out of nowhere. He brandished the knife in one meaty hand, as the other curled into a fist and slammed into his attacker's face. Sisette and Reb stared transfixed as the combat unfolded, with enthusiastic accompaniment by the disembodied guitar. It was dizzying to look directly at Buck Thunderpunch while he fought, his position and pose seeming to change abruptly between attacks with little regard for continuity of motion. I don't understand, Sisette croaked, his eyes wide as Buck Thunderpunch threw a gorilla out the hole in the view screen. Its screams carried clearly through the bridge as its head swelled up and burst into a shower of gore. None of this makes sense. We're being saved, Lelep said, pronouncing the word like it left a foul taste in his mouth. Isn't it wonderful? It's alarming, Reb said, watching Buck Thunderpunch pull out a gigantic revolver and punch another gorilla in the face. He flew backwards as if hit by a meteor, slamming into another behind it. I'm beginning to question what I thought I knew about physics. Don't think about it too much, Lep advised. Physics is working normally, it's just, not the most important set of rules right now. Sisette stared at him. But that's not how the universe works, he objected. That's your opinion. Not his, Lelep said. A metal bar flew across the bridge to embed itself into the wall directly beside Lelep's head. The other two flinched and cried out, but Lelep merely glanced at it and rolled his eyes. Dramatic, he grumbled. Just sit down and wait. She'll be over soon. They watched as the gorillas continued to pour into the bridge compartment one by one, each receiving a punch that left them sprawled across the deck. The bodies of the fallen seemed to vanish whenever the crew's attention was elsewhere, save for the corpses still hanging pinned from a pipe. Finally, the stream of attacking gorillas tapered off until one particularly large specimen was the only one left. Unlike the others, it was dressed in a black martial arts uniform and brandished a slightly curved sword. It threw a small spiked disc of metal at Buck Thunderpunch, who picked it out of the air effortlessly, before counterattacking with a punch to the gorilla's face. The massive animal didn't stop after one blow, but Buck Thunderpunch kept hitting it until it had dropped its sword and was now staggering unsteadily. Hey, fellas! Buck Thunderpunch drawled at some point. He had lost the shirt that he was wearing. Did you say your ship was broke? The Lep shook his head urgently, but Reb cleared his throat. Yes, Captain Thunderpunch, he said hesitantly, his eyes still on the tottering gorilla. The reactor stack needs to cool before we can... Buck Thunderpunch don't know much about reactor stacks, Buck Thunderpunch replied, readying a boxy machine pistol and turning it to punch the gorilla in the stomach. It let out its breath in a gasp and haunched over. Buck Thunderpunch grabbed the entire head in one hand and dragged it towards the navigation console. Oh, here we go, Lep muttered, staring dully forward. Buck Thunderpunch slammed the gorilla's skull into the console. It exploded in a shower of sparks, causing the gorilla's limbs to flail and jerk spasmodically for a few seconds before it slumped and fell to the floor. The console, nevertheless, appeared undamaged, and all across the bridge the power readouts were returning to normal. Buck Thunderpunch shifted his cigar to the other side of his mouth and grinned, displaying possibly white teeth. Sometimes you just need to use your head, he quipped. Kill me, Lelep whispered. All right, my blue amigos, Buck Thunderpunch said as the guitar played a triumphant riff. Looks like you're all fixed up. Thank you, Sisette said dazedly. No problemo, mamacita, Buck Thunderpunch replied, ambling over and putting Sisette into a passionate kiss. After some time, he released the stunned crewman, adjusted his leather jacket, and walked over to climb through the hole in the view screen. You folks ever need help again, just holler for old Buck Thunderpunch, Buck Thunderpunch said, flipping them a lazy salute and climbing onto an impressively large two-wheeled motor vehicle. The engine roared loud enough to vibrate the decking, and an anomalous cloud of smoke issued from the rear wheel as he sped off into the vacuum of space. When it cleared, he was gone, and the view screen was intact. What? Reb said flatly. How? This is really all on the Lelarathi, Lelep muttered. Bunch of irresponsible reprobates, the lot of them. He signed my memories, Sisette said, poking at the suddenly generous chest where 1-800-Thunder was scrawled all across blocky handwriting. Captain, I don't have memories. I told you not to engage the narrative, Lelep said, standing up to look around the pristine bridge. The only indication that something had happened to the ship was the gorilla corpse pinned to the bulkhead and the surprisingly buxom navigator. He could hear the faint roar of the Steel Raptor's engine echoing through the void. We should be able to make it out of here, he said at last. Set course straight for the dock, though. We need to reach the port before the reactor realizes he didn't know how to fix it. Reb nodded and began to prepare the ship to depart. He seemed relieved to have an order to follow, even if it was a somewhat nonsensical one. Our species doesn't even have memories, Sisette grumbled, prodding at the anomalous revision to his torso. Yes, well, Lelep said wearily. That's your opinion, not his. End of story. I would just like to thank the T5 supporters. Bushmaster 117, Caspar Arnholtz, Draxzoon WRE, Elijah Silvercross, Gray, John Carrington, and Severin Cerberus. Thank you very much.